We're back with a developing story. Kohl's is rallying in the pre-market after beating top and bottom line estimates for its latest quarter. The department store chain posted earnings per share of 10 cents. The street was expecting a loss. Despite comp sales falling over 1.5% for the quarter, Kohl's raised its full-year earnings outlook. Kohl's also removed the interim tag from now official CEO Michael Bender yesterday. Welcome back to Morning Movers. I'm Giant King Hall live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Now, Zscaler set to report its results after the close of trading today. To preview the report, we want to welcome in our next guest. That's Alex Hamerstone, Advisory Solutions Director at Trusted Sec. Alex, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Every day when I log into my work computer, I get the Zscaler authentication. It drives me nuts. And I know, I've talked to our IT department. They're like, well, this is protection. I get it. So Zscaler is looked at as a bellwether for enterprise security budgets. What is the expectation when you think about, deepening demand for its services?
I think demand is certainly not going away. And all you have to do is turn on the news to see all the different risks and threats and seeing organizations having all these difficulties. And I think the big story is not necessarily, that demand will ever go down for cybersecurity services, but really where that demand's going to land. And organizations that are really able to kind of get out in front and put together consolidated solutions, I think are going to do very well over the long term.
Okay, so you think they're going to do well over the long term. When you think about Zscaler's positioning within cybersecurity, you say demand is just going to pick up in general. Who's expected to benefit? Do you see Zscaler being in the top?
I think absolutely there's a good shot at that. What I've seen over the years is, I'm old enough to remember when, budgets for security felt pretty unlimited and organizations would kind of go with any tool they could, anything that was coming new on the market. But now I think companies are becoming a lot more intentional with their spending, and they're looking for solutions that can really, address multiple issues. And, whether it's Zscaler or another one of these, larger companies that are able to provide multiple solutions under the same umbrella, I think are going to continue to thrive.
All right, Zscaler, let's talk a little bit about expectations going into its results. Adjusted EPS expected to be 85 cents a share. That would be a little lower than last quarter, but up from a year ago. Revenue is expected to top $773 million. Does that line up with what you're seeing in terms of expectations, or what your expectations are?
I think so. I think it's tough for all these companies that have these, huge growth expectations year over year. And I think sometimes we need to kind of take a breath and kind of make sure that the solutions that we're providing are solid. And focusing on innovation while also making sure we have solid solutions sometimes, can feel like two competing priorities. But certainly that would not, that kind of growth would not be outside the realm of what I would expect.
Speaking of competing priorities, so a big priority now is obviously cybersecurity across companies, especially when you think about the increase of security risks and some of the things we've heard about recently of whether they're breaches or just, things that happen that cause a security risk. At the same time, the competition is increasing for efficiency. And so that means more AI assistants, more co-pilots. How do you think about just the rise of that AI in the workplace and the role of cybersecurity around that?
I think there are really two main elements with AI and the adoption. One is, how can organizations that are providing security solutions leverage AI to improve their products? And really, security is one of those areas where AI can have a big effect, because one of the things it's very good at is looking at large data sets and drawing inferences and kind of taking action from there. So there's certainly that piece that's important to note. But also the growth of AI really across all different functions within organizations creates an opportunity for companies and that can come out and help secure that AI implementation. So I think anyone that's really able to get out in front of that and really show a market value and a use case for how they can help secure AI implementations is going to do very well.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how Zscaler is positioned within its space. So it's up more than 50% year to date. CrowdStrike up more than 40% year to date. Palo Alto barely has its head above water this year. When you think about the positioning of these cybersecurity companies for everyday investors, how do you compare them?
So I think they all do slightly different things, but in the end they're looking to get to the same types of solutions, which is obviously securing organizations. And anecdotally, one of the things I talk to a lot of organizations, every year and kind of over the course of the weeks and the months. And I have heard a lot of, companies are moving around and switching some of their large providers, right? Especially in the firewall space. So I think that, it's going to be so important for these companies, the three we mentioned, to really leverage their names and their reputations, to continue to sell into companies that are not just, bringing on a new solution, but also changing solutions.
Okay, speaking of solutions, I want to get a final thought from you, Alex, on the one-stop shop push that we've seen from different companies. How much do you see that happening within the cybersecurity space?
It's huge. It really feels like the trend. I think, looking at kind of being on the ground and talking to practitioners, we have issues with staffing, right? We have finding staff, budgets. And one of the things that's really challenging is really managing and learning multiple technologies. So I think when you can get this consolidation and have your staff really learn and get familiar with one company and how it operates and how it functions, I think that's going to be a huge benefit for companies. And I think that we'll continue to see that consolidation.
Thank you, Alex. That's Alex Hamerstone, Advisory Solutions Director at Trusted Tech, with a preview of Zscaler earnings. Those come after the close today.